r/ask Reddit. What sounds 100% incorrect, but is actually 100% correct? A 17-inch pizza offers more pizza than two 12-inch pizzas. 3. 142. 17/2. 2 equals 227. 0 1 2 3. 142. 12/2. 2 equals 226. 224 works out. Applied mathematics right there. Antarctica is a desert. Michigan is slightly bigger than Great Britain. The drive from Detroit to Nashville, Tennessee is 555 miles, while Detroit to Copper Harbor, Michigan is 607 miles. Detroit is closer to the southern US than it is to northern Michigan. I went to school in the Up and people were always surprised that traveling there took me 10 hours and I never left the state. Edit. The number of people who are quick to try and one-up me by talking about Texas is staggering. Guess some stereotypes are true. There are over twice as many average daily users of the New York City subway system than the entire US domestic airline industry. But which has more delays? That's the context in which I initially learned this tidbit. A friend on Facebook was talking shit about NYC and how they couldn't get the subways to run on time. And I wanted to make a point about how many people use the subway. So I googled and learned that it is estimated that on average over 4 million people use the NYC subway every day. Shit, that's a lot. I thought, I wonder how that compares to the number of people who fly. So I googled that and learned that an average of about 1.7 million people fly domestically in the United States every day. So, there you go. On average, over twice, and damn near 3 times, as many people use the NYC subway every day as fly domestically in the US. Oxford University is older than the Aztecs. It took about a half millennium for them to start teaching algebra, because that's how long it took for the word to enter Middle English. Somewhat similarly, Harvard did not teach calculus when it was first founded. Modern calculus had not been invented yet. Sherlock Holmes has never said elementary, my dear Watson in any of the 56 short stories or 4 novels written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Edit. Added Sir Arthur's first name, as is customary. But they have ejaculated lots of times in the books, especially Watson. Fun fact, conversation and intercourse used to be reversed in meaning. So if someone is having intercourse with another person, they're just chatting. If they're in conversation with each other, things are getting freaky up in there. Charlie Chaplin and 50 Cent were alive at the same time. I can't help but only picture Charlie Chaplin in black and white, so reading this is weird for me. Hint, one of them is white and one is black. More people live in California than in all of Canada. I don't know why, but it seems wrong. Edit. I get it. Tokyo has more than all of Canada, even though they don't. And California is great and Canada has winter, so it sucks. Jesus Christ. California's economy is larger than Russia's. If California left the US, it would be the 5th largest economy in the world, and the US would still be first. Edit. This assumes the EU is not treated as a single economy, and based on GDP only. However, I may be a bit out of date regardless. Britain and France are both very close to California's GDP figures, so it may be 6th or 7th and or vary by the year. It would go USA, China, Japan, Germany, then UK, France, California, all around 2.5 trillion GDP. 25% of all the bones in your body are in your feet. If you take away all the goals he made, Gretzky would still have the most points scored in NHL history. Adding to this, Wayne and his brother Brent have the most combined points between 2 brothers in NHL history. Brent finished his career with 4 points. Explain this for me. How you have points scored without scoring goals? In the state of Maine, there are more black bears than black people. Just look this up. Roughly 30,000 black bears and 16,000 black people. It's African American bears. The 10th US president still has living grandkids. For the lazy, it's John Tyler, who lived from 1790 to 1862. He had his last child at 63. This child then went on to have children at 71 and 75, who are 93 and 89-year-old men today. Tyler is considered one of the worst presidents in US history, but you can't criticize his genetics. How so? Please excuse Canadian ignorance. Edit. We got genetics in the Great White North. I was referencing why John Tyler was a poor president. Sorry for confusion. Ireland is the second biggest exporter of bananas in Europe. Edit. I was told they were first by a professor, but they are actually second after Iceland. Iceland, which coincidentally is only a sea away from Ireland. Edit. Gold. How? Thanks internet stranger. There are more ways to arrange a standard 52 card deck than there are atoms in the entire Earth. Haha shit, it's not even close. If you took every civilian-owned firearm in the US and laid them side by side, you would have a giant belt of guns long enough to go completely around the moon. After going completely around the moon, you would still have enough guns left over to equip every soldier in the world with 2 guns. Eagle screeches in the distance. You can fit all the planets in the solar system, between the Earth and the moon. Yup, the hard part would be putting them back where you got them. Just build a big slingshot. Pigeons are one of 3 milk producing birds. Username checks out. Well, now I just have to try milking a bird. Inflammable and flammable are synonyms. What a country. Inflammable, non-flammable. You gotta be a dictionary to know what burns. Comatitis. There are 588 popes per square mile in the Vatican City. 76 actually. Pope Benedict still lives there. Actual question, is he still considered a pope though? He was a pope, but not that there is a new pope. Is he still a pope or an ex-pope? When babies have water births in those birthing pools, if they are never lifted out above the water, they can survive underwater for the rest of their lives. Not just babies. If anyone goes underwater and never comes back out, they will survive underwater for the rest of their lives. It's hard to think of a situation where one does not survive for the rest of one's life. A day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus. Edit. Please check the replies before asking for an explanation. There are already 5 others who have the question answered. The lighter was invented before the match. Makes sense. Flint and steel are old tech. A match is a chemical fire. New York City and Rome are on the same latitude. Also Maine and the south of France. New Orleans and Cairo as well. Drink lots of water when you visit. If Finding Nemo was 100% scientifically correct, Marlin would have changed sex, open bracket, male to female, and would mate with his son, Nemo. Life finds a way. Also, the fish wouldn't speak. Each cigarette you smoke subtracts 11 minutes from your student loan obligation. There are more trees on Earth than there are stars in the Milky Way. I remember when I was a kid in a low grade learning about deforestation of the Amazon etc. And my teacher said we're in grave danger on this planet due to there only being about 6 million trees left because corporations are mowing them down so fast. That stuck with me for a while. And I recall being on a road trip with my family, driving along the highway through PA and thinking, no ducking way, there are like so many ducking trees. It doesn't minimize the original problem, but it was false of her to say that. I don't know why I told this story, but just struck me. Sorry, I'll see my way out. Central PA here to confirm we have a ducking ton of lovely trees. Kingdom Hearts 3 is the 11th game in the series. The long-running Need for Speed series has included several games with the subtitle Hot Pursuit. The first was Need for Speed 3, Hot Pursuit. The second was Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit 2. The third was titled Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit. That's just annoying lol. The average human being has fewer than 2 legs. I always like telling people that I have more eyes than the average human. They always get confused. There's a joke in here somewhere. Okay, off the top of my head, I told my friend with a lazy eye that he shouldn't feel bad because he still has more eyes than the average human. He looked at me funny. Let's workshop this. There is more time elapsed between Stegosaurus and Tyrannosaurus than between Tyrannosaurus and Homo sapiens. Yet the Disneyland Railroad has them together in their primeval world diorama. UK consumes more baked beans than the rest of the world put together. The sun still hasn't set in the British Empire. There are 22 countries in the world that Britain at some point hasn't invaded. We get around. swans kill more people every year than sharks. Well sure, they kill hardly any sharks at all. If a piece of paper were folded in half 42 times, it would reach to the moon. Folded in half 42 times, not just folded 42 times. Say the paper is 0.1 millimeter thick, I'm just guessing. Each time you fold it in half, it doubles in thickness. Open bracket, 0.1242 equals 439,804 km distance to the moon. 400 kilometers. Fold it a further 61 times and the paper becomes wider than the observable universe. The color orange was named after the fruit. I love this one. This is why we call them redheads instead of orangeheads. After the inclusion of 3-point seat belts, emergency room visits from cars crashes went up exponentially, the result of people getting injured rather than dying in car crashes. Likewise, when the military began using defensive helmets, the number of head wounds went up dramatically. There's a, possibly made up, story about how the RAF decided to use this principle to improve the armor on their Spitfires. They examined all of the planes that had taken fire and survived, and then added more armor plating to the areas that hadn't been hit on any other planes. The logic being that any part with bullet holes in it could clearly survive having holes put in it since the plane had flown back under its own power in the first place. In the average classroom there is a better than 1 in 2 chance that 2 students have the same birthday. This sounds like it shouldn't be true because the reader assumes that there's a 50% chance someone shares a birthday with them. However, the problem actually states that there is a 50% chance of 2 people, who could be any people, sharing a birthday in a group of 23 people. Stupid, self-centered reader. The only country with more medals in the Winter Olympics than America has a lower population than the average US state. Norway population 5. 233 million. Average US state population 6. 462 million. We probably spend more money on winter sports than the combined total of US states though. A certain species of turtle can breathe through its ass. Edit. So my top comment is about turtles breathing through their asses. Lovely. Edit number 2. Enough with the political jokes. They aren't original anymore. Tell me more. Zoologist here. So turtles, unlike us with a separate bottom and urinary sexual tract, have a one hole to rule them all sorta deal, called a clicker. A few specialized species, such as the Fitzroy River turtle and white-throated snapper, have evolved a pair of air bladders on either side of theirs, helping them to absorb oxygen from the surrounding water whilst diving so they can remain submerged for longer. It's also useful for species that hibernate in cold water through winter, allowing them to breathe whilst expending less energy than using their muscles to pump stuff into their lungs. As a fun reverse, Chinese soft-shell turtles can pee through their mouths. Source. More people live crammed into King's Landing than in all of the North combined. Work's easier to come by. Better brothels too. Incorrectly is spelled incorrectly. The only time the word incorrectly isn't spelled incorrectly is when it's spelled incorrectly. On Jupiter and Saturn, it literally rains diamonds. Ow 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 ouch ouch ouch. Ouchoo fowie. The largest national park in the European Union is in South America. The most westerly, southerly, and easterly points of the European Union are French. Donald Trump is the President of the United States of America. There are at least 2 people in New York City with exactly the same number of hairs on their head. Edit. For the curious. This is an application of the pigeonhole principle in math. Edit. For those replying bald people, implying that the existence of bald people makes the fact trivially true and thus violates the what sound 100% incorrect. Assuming bald people are 10% of the population, even if you forcibly remove all bald people from NYC, the fact is still true. This is the most relevant my username will get on a popular subreddit. All peacocks are male. The others are called pedants. I have never considered this but it makes sense. It's a coke. The term peacock is properly reserved for the male. The female is known as a peahen, and the immature offspring are sometimes called peachicks. Sharks are older than trees. If you travel due south from Detroit, You'll be in Canada. Developmentally speaking, you're still an adolescent in your early 20s. You don't reach adulthood until 23 to 25. 22 here. This is somehow reassuring and horrifying. More correct term would be adolescent. Teenager refers to the actual age, so this one is just wrong by definition. We harness energy from a nuclear reactor by heating up water. Just a bunch of glorified steam engines. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.